Welcome to Shift and Sustain a Positive Mindset. Today, let's talk about Chardi Kala or Unflinching Optimism. If you've never heard the term Chardi Kala, you will learn what it is and how you can apply it in your lives, like our two guests. If you are familiar with the word, we hope our talk will inspire you to go deeper and further beyond the words and experience Chardi Kala in a new way. Welcome to Shift and Sustain a Positive Mindset podcast. We share with you on topics relating to transformation and sustaining a positive mindset. Our hope is to help you be optimistic, stay motivated, and when there are tough times, to be resilient so that you can bounce back. I have two wonderful guests with me today, Manpreet and Prashant. They both are seekers in their own ways, and they will share their views and experiences, and we will have a conversation on Chardi Kala. I'll be asking them three questions. When did they first hear about Chardi Kala, or what's a memory that they can think of? What does Chardi Kala mean to them? And what is one thing that they would like to leave you with, whether you're getting started, whether you're new to this concept, hesitant, or not sure on how to apply it in your lives. So Prashant, Manpreet and I know each other for many years, and over years we have talked about, doing something to share the message. Manpreet and I are both in a marketing field, and Prashant and I also do a lot of things in seminars and meditation and so forth. So as we chose today's day, it's quite an auspicious day today, December 29th. It is Guru Gobind Singh Ji's birthday, whom we will touch on in a bit later. And historically, Guru Gobind Singh Ji can be considered one of superb examples of Chardi Kala, of the spirit that he brought, he lived, and he left each one of us with. So let's get started. What is Chardi Kala? So Chardi Kala comes from two Sanskrit words. Chardi meaning rising, ascending, or soaring, and Kala can mean process, time, like in the present or the state. And some of the common ways in which Chardi Kala has been translated, or people view it, as positive attitude or ascending energy. It can also be described to be in high spirits or having an attitude in life that is positive and optimistic. Chardi Kala can also be described to have a state of mind in which a person has no negative emotions like fear, and instead being in a state where one is positive, satisfied, and grateful. So one of my memories as I think about Chardi Kala, and I was sort of thinking about this topic, is that growing up in India, it was quite a common term. Whenever someone asked you how you're doing, ki hal hai, one of the responses at times used to be, I'm in Chardi Kala. It doesn't simply translate into, for me, in that sense, into I'm feeling extremely good. It also goes beyond that. As an example, that as you say it, you feel good. And then the person who is hearing it, no matter what they may be going through in life, they somehow are uplifted. So it has a wonderful effect as I think of it. Again, a good reminder to use this term more often. So now to our guests, I'll start with Manpreet, to introduce him. He's a New Yorker, husband, father. He's passionate about Sikhi and Punjabi culture. Manpreet, I'd like to ask you the first question. When did you first hear about Chardi Kala, or what's a memory that you can go back to when it first came into your life?
Yeah, Josh, thanks for having me. Chardi Kala, I've heard it my whole life. The first memories I have really are when it's really my chachas, chachis, and my cousins, my puafafers, anytime my parents would ask, Ki hala, ki kar rahe hain, how's everything? They all used to say Chardi Kala all the time. And to me, I was very young. And to me, really, it just meant like, oh, everything's great. That's what they're basically saying. Like, no worries, we're all good here. And that's basically my first memory. My grandma used to say it, my grandparents used to say it, really, mom's side and my dad's side. And everyone was really good, and they were always happy. So I thought Chardi Kala is a great state to be in. Of course, as I got older and read more about Sikh history, that when people started saying Chardi Kala more, it had a lot more weight to it. But yeah, I've been hearing it, since I could hear, I guess.
Wonderful, thanks. And Prashant, to introduce you, you're a NLP master trainer in hypnosis. You've been trained in that. Tell us about, when did you first hear about Chardi Kala, or what's a memory that comes to you?
Hi guys, thanks Jess and Manpreet for this opportunity. And I'm so, before I start, I thank Guru Gobind Singh Ji also, because this was like Jazz and we were talking, and Manpreet, that we knew that today is this, but the occasion that to do this podcast today just came out, and we didn't know it was the same day. So I think it's blessed. Now the reason I basically grew up in Mumbai, Maharashtra. My ancestors come from Gujarat, but so in short, the school that I used to go to was next to a army training ground. And there we used to have these different battalions come in and exercise. And as kids, we would just go during the recess and meet them. And there were a lot of, very interestingly, there were these regiments, and there were a lot of officers who were Sikhs also. And one officer, I remember him very clearly. And this was maybe, I was just like maybe 12, 10, 11, 12. I'm not even sure in age. And I didn't know anything about Chardi Kala, anything, because that's not my background. But interestingly, he was a Sikh, but he was a Maharashtrian. And that was very interesting for me. So, and he was leading the troops when they were running around. He would always say, Chardi Kala, Chardi Kala. So what is this? Once I asked him, what do you mean? So, and, he was a Maharashtrian and he was a Sikh. So he said, well, my ancestors are connected to the people who went with Banda Bairagi to Punjab when Guru Gobind Singh came to Maharashtra. So in my family, one of us always, if possible, goes into the, to become a good Sikh or into the army. So that is where I heard Chardi Kala. And as a child, that was very fascinating for me. But I didn't understand much. But the enthusiasm and the optimism and the confidence those guys had, and him in particular, I yet remember him. I don't know where he is, if he's even there now. I'm sure, I hope he is. But that confidence, in anything, I would talk to him about my exams and like, oh, I have this. Chardi Kala, just go for it. Do your best, go for it, and then leave the rest to God. So basically, that was what kind of I remember. Do your best, go for it, leave the rest to God. That's it. Just do what you have to do in the moment. Give it your 100%. So that is where Chardi Kala, kind of the initial thing came to me from. And of course, I've kind of researched it later on. But that in one line, if I would say, that is what Chardi Kala means for me.
Thank you, Prashant. As we were discussing this topic, and obviously there's a lot out there. And interestingly, Chardi Kala can be translated into many different ways, and it means different things to different people. So one of the things that we did was we put together a little form and a survey on our website and asked people, what does it mean to them? So I'll read you some of the terms that are common and that have come up. So Manpreet, as an example, says Chardi Kala means acceptance to me and being fearless. Jaspreet says that Chardi Kala is a state of pure bliss that is backed by gratitude. Sonia says it's a positive attitude and, believing and trusting that everything is happening for a reason. And Harneet, as an example, stays to stay in the current moment, present moment. And I, as I think about different times when Chardi Kala has been further used in my family. I also remember, Manpreet, like you, one of my uncles used to always say, are you in Chardi Kala? How are you doing? And my grandfather, if I remember my Nanaji, he would, if I was a little bit down on a day, he would say, Thande saal kyun par rahe? Like, why are you so like down and, breathing like the world's going to end? And he would say, be in Chardi Kala, lift yourself up. I can remember my mom saying, in times, tough times, hey, hold your head high, be positive. And also, Manpreet, I've heard since you, are passionate about Punjabi culture, the Nihang forces, if you could give us some historical memories that you have or some stories that you can share with us. As an example, I remember one of the things, terms Nihangs use is Faujan kithe chal gaye, right? So no matter how tough the times are, how you may be down, but it's a way of uplifting you, like, where are you going, forces? And let's go and be positive. What would you like to share that in those terms? What does Chardi Kala mean to you, or something from history that comes to
you? From history, there's no better source than the gurus, right? No matter what happened, what came their way, gurus were shot at, they were sacrificed, they were, shaheed. The state wanted to kill them. Anytime you're making, I guess, the empire or the state, you're trying to change the status quo, they're out to get you. And the gurus knew that too. But the people that followed them were always in high spirits. The people that, obviously the gurus were, but how the gurus took this concept of following hukam and being in Chardi Kala and then conveyed it to thousands and thousands of millions of people, and for all the wars they fought, it's just amazing to me. It's and one of the things I always look at really is, the incredible story of Banda Singh Bahadur for me. Honestly, I read his book by Ganda Singh. It's a great book. I recommend it to everybody, actually, that wants to know about Banda Singh Bahadur's life. And what happened to him and how he stayed in the constant state of Chardi Kala, like, I can't even imagine, especially being a father, what happened to him and how they killed him and tortured him, just with the Guru's blessing. All he had was the Guru's blessing, and then, he conquered. But that story to me is like, I cannot wait till my kids are just a little older so they'll like realize it. But that story to me is him not flinching. He's saying everything is good, don't worry about it. Even his kids getting tortured in front of him, he's getting tortured. And all he's saying, he has that Chardi Kala spirit in him. His spirits are high. And all he's doing is, remembering his cause and remembering Vaheguru. It's like truly, truly amazing. Like, so I always think back to that. I'm like, I always think back to that in my life too. Like, our ancestors went through a lot, right? So whatever problem I'm going through here, it does not mean that much as they went through, and they kept being in high spirits, and so it's truly amazing when you look at Banda Singh Bahadur's life, the Guru's lives, how many people they touched, and the wars that happened after that, and how Sikhs stayed in high spirits. It's really them staying in high spirits. I'm probably here today, right? So it's a big concept in Sikhi, and it's a big concept, I think, in Sikhi, but I also think even if you're not Sikh, just a big concept to have in life, and it will, you won't fall astray if you have that spirit in you. So that's what I remember.
Manpreet, there's a concept of bana, accepting the will, God's will, or Vaheguru's will. I would like to ask you, how do you see it as accepting it, but then also at the same time, it's not like you're just sitting and you're not doing anything, right? How do you see the two coming together, the free will, accepting it, but yet doing what you need to do.
Yeah, I'm not. I've really just realized this honestly in the last 3 or 4 years. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I had kids, and so it made me better. But there's this thing I always used to hear. I heard so many times. I listen to Punjabi music a lot of Sufi music, listen to Bulleh Shah, Varis Shah, all that stuff, and so there's this concept of, and I didn't really get it till the last 3 or 4 years, and I think it's in the Gita too. I just can't quote it, but I think Krishna has said this or something. It's the same concept of where, you do the hard work, you plant the seeds and you do it. Whether the flowers will come or not is not up to you. Your job is to just plant, water, be a good mali, be a good farmer or whatever your trade is. Just do good and the rest will come. So that bana is sometimes it's very hard to accept. And then I heard, what brought it together for me was, and I realized this in my life, I don't know if you two have, but what brought it together for me was just, I don't know, in the last couple of years was when I heard one of my favorite Punjabi singers of all time is Gurdas Mann, and he was in an interview and he said that, there's this concept in Sikhi also called Saj, right? And Saj means so many things. People have hours lectures on this, but some people say it's balance, some people say it's natural order of things, and which in this concept it is like, for me, like the cosmic natural order of Ikonkar to me is kind of like Saj. So he said, like, anytime any song, any business idea, anything came to me in Saj, it was always a hit, or it was always great, and it was always profitable, whether monetarily, physically, mentally, whatever. But anytime where I started like, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do this, and he's like, something always happened. There was always so many difficulties and obstacles I had to face. But when things came in Sag, it was so great. And I realized that in my life, like on things I wanted to do, on jobs I wanted to get, on businesses maybe I wanted to start, or whatever it is, when I was like, no, I'm going to do this, even though if it's not that time, I'm going to do this. And it's me. It never went anywhere. But anytime anything came in Sag, I mean, it's been bale, really. It's just been great. And I just couldn't believe it. And that didn't hit me till the last 3 or 4 years. I'm like, this actually is true. The natural order of things, ikonkar, whatever you do, whatever you put wherever you put all your hard work in, or your strength and your time in, it's whatever's going to come about is actually going to be good for you. Even if you think in that moment it's bad, it actually turns out to be very, very good for you. Rumi talks about this too. So, Pana is like that. So that's like the Chardi Kala connection, with it, I think. Tera Pana Meetha Lage. No matter what, Guru Gobind Singh, Prashant said about Guru Gobind Singh today, basically that's, his mother's gone, his sons are gone, his dad was sacrificed, Tera Pana Meetha Lage, and because of that, I think still that we're here, Sikhs are still here, Sikhi's still here, the culture's here, the high spirits are still here. So Pana and Chardi Kala go together. I honestly do think they do definitely go together, but it takes time, takes experience to realize that. But it's just not having a positive attitude all the time, even though things are negative in your life. There's a little more to it. But yeah. So big concepts to grasp.
Yeah. Thank you. That reminds me also, you use the word, whether it's a farmer or it's a person who plants seeds or takes care of the flowers. Similarly, there's another concept in Gurbani, in Indian, that this world is like a drama. We each have our roles that we are playing. It's like a dream. And in that, we're here to do certain jobs, and we can do the best in a way. And Prashant, you and I have talked about, in the healing world, it's very common that, when you're healing someone or you're giving, a teaching or a seminar, if you think I am doing it, it happens at a certain level, and Prashant works in certain arts where when you bring your ego in, you get short-circuited. But when you work with the divine force, the divine energy, it just goes to another level. Prashant, I'd like to ask you the same way, but the way I would like to ask you is, you and I have discussed the martial spirit, martial arts. My dad was in Air Force for a little bit, and one of the things he, tried to put in me was to, again, be tough, be ready, hold the head high. And Prashant, you and I were talking about this one podcast episode where they had brought in the special forces person, and Tony Robbins as an example, and a few other authors that we listened to also relay this message that if there's one trait that is found which is different between people that make it versus not, it's often people who have that spirit, who have that ability to sort of shift and say, I will get this done. So Prashant, the question to you is, what does Chardi Kala mean to you, and how you connect it to some of the conversations around the martial spirit, and please share with us.
Wow. There's so many threads that came up. I had some thoughts in mind, and then listening to Manpreet, 2 points that he made. That's fascinating stuff. It's already, and so first I'll try and put across what was there in my mind, and then I would like to just, based on your question and what Manpreet said, put something in there. Hopefully I can remember that. So Chardi Kala, what it means to me is a story comes to my mind, and that would also determine the warrior spirit also of the Sikh gurus, of the people who fought with him, of the Sikhs, the Khalsa, also the people who joined him, just like people who went with Banda Bahadur. They just went. They were just commoners from Maharashtra who didn't know anything, most probably villagers who just joined. So that was very fascinating. I remember a time, maybe it was about 6-7 years ago, one of my relatives, her son was about, I think he must be about 3 years old, maybe 2.5, when kids kind of starting to walk, So we had gone to a fort, and the fort had these steps, which were huge. So it was almost to the shoulder of the child, I would say. And the mother, she's a very strong lady, So and her husband is kind of in the army. So we were family, and the child was trying to climb these steps. And I told her she's going to fall. So, because it was, I'm like, so she said, no, let him try. Let him do it. And his legs were getting scratched, and he's in the mud, and he finally made it to the first step. And then he went up again, and then he looks back and he smiles at his mother. And then he again goes up. I mean, he kept falling and doing, but he finally made it. And then finally, when she thought, oh, now he's going to kind of, he's hurt himself, or not hurt himself, but he's kind of getting tired or whatever. After 3-4 steps, she just went and she went up to him, and she just loved him, and took him in his arms, and in her arms, and got him back. And I'm like, that thing comes to me based on what you guys are saying right now. It's like the bhana, the child took what was given to him in his environment. That is what he said, bhana. And bhana is kind of, bhanu is a word which comes to my mind from Gujarati also, that bhanu is food that is given to you, the food. So the bhana, I don't know if it's the same thing, but it's like what is presented to you by the divine, by the universe, by God, or whoever you want. You take it. The child took it as an experience, enjoyed doing what he was doing when he was actually getting hurt doing it, he was getting scratched and whatever. And the divine would be his mother, who was watching and allowing him to grow, because she let him go through it. Because if he would not go through it, he would not grow the way she wanted him to grow, facing the challenge. And it was dangerous, actually, according to me. But she was there, that if he falls, I'm going to hold him, But she let him do it. So it's basically, maybe that's where the Bhana comes in, where God comes in, or the divine comes in, who's there watching and will step in. So that absolute trust that the child had in Sahaj, the absolute trust that I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and I trust the divine. That's it. So in the flow, the child was in the flow. So that would be where I would say Sahaj comes in for me, and the mother was the divine. That, okay, trust me, I'm there, and I'll take care of things. That's it. When the time comes, though, but you have to go through certain things to reach where you go. So that is where I think that is what Chardi Kala would mean to me. Then, I guess. And, yeah.
Wonderful, Prashant, and on the lastly on the martial spirit.
Yeah.
Would you agree? You and I have had many conversations. How do you see Chardi Kala sort of whether somebody is a Sikh or not?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
it's that spirit.
Absolutely. Basically, it's the for me, it's a Kshatriya spirit that if we take the local the Desi languages, we call it Kshatriya, different ways, Shastra, different ways. So for me, that is actually Chardi Kala is the martial spirit, and the martial spirit can be applied in any aspect of life. Not only while you want to hit not only in war or something. It's basically a part of life. We are constantly, for lack of a better word, I wouldn't want to use that word because, but we are constantly in friction with our surroundings to grow. Basically, life is friction. If you look at Shiva Shakti also, there's friction of those two. Or in terms of quantum physics, also light and sound, when they meet, creation happens. So it's friction. Everything is friction. So battle or war or something is high level friction where you're doing something for a certain reason. And everyday life is friction. So carrying that martial spirit of Chardi Kala is going to the gym, doing what you have to do. For example, because you have a certain goal, or your studies, that itself is the martial spirit. Where you want to reach a certain goal, you do what you have to do. You battle it out, you fight it out. For lack of better words, those are, I don't want to use very violent words, but so you do what you have to do. That is the martial spirit. You go for it. You never give up, and you reach your goal. Like the special forces guy that we spoke about, he says one thing: no matter what happens, no matter I have been given a goal, and I will fulfill it, come what may. That is my objective. Small objectives. That's what he said based on the conversation that I heard recently. He said, I have been given a goal. Now there's a major battle happening. Like that guy said, how does the special forces come into play, in a war or something? He says, see, for me, I don't worry about the war as such. I have been given a target by my leaders. My objective is to get that target at any cost, no matter what happens. That will in turn flow to whatever has to happen. But I have been given that target, I have to do it. That's it. So Chardi Kala, in terms of the martial spirit, would also mean objectives, the larger objective and the smaller objective, step by step, keep achieving, whatever that may be for you. That could be anything for anybody. For example, for that child, it was just getting up on the step. That itself was a martial attitude, with optimism that, I'm just going to do it. Because the child doesn't know battle, doesn't know war, but for the child, that is an objective that he has to go for, and he's doing it. So I think it just comes in. The martial spirit is in everything that we do. If we take Chardi Kala into our thought process, instead of giving up, basically, there's nothing called quitting. Just do it. That's it. Go for it. Do your best. Leave the rest to God. That's it.
Wonderful. Thanks. Yeah. And we'll go to our third question where, towards the end, we would like to leave you with, whether you're new to the Chardi Kala concept or being optimistic, positive, whether you're hesitant or you are still unsure on how to apply it. I'll give you a couple of examples that, I also, in some of the blogs and writings I do, I really believe that words matter and how we think matters. So instead of simply saying I'm okay or I'm fine, utilizing words that I am better or I'm in Chardi Kala, not only will it uplift you, it will, have an effect on that next person who you're smiling and saying that to. You'll sort of uplift them. I can also remember, again, some of my aunts using the words like, from Gurbani, Manpreet, like tu kahe dole, right? Tu kahe dole pranya, like the God is with you. So, go and, live in the world no matter what happens. So that's what I would like to leave you with is that, always think positive, no matter what is going on, not false positive, but believing in whether you want to say bana, acceptance, or like Prashant said, your role, or Manpreet said, you need to just put the seeds and whatever needs to happen will happen. With that, Manpreet, what would you say is one thing you would like to leave today's viewers with?
So I read a book a long time ago. I think I was just after college. It was Jack Canfield's The Success Principles. And so Jack Canfield's famous author, Chicken Soup for the Soul, and then he had one of his mentors was W. Clement Stone. And so when I read this from who W. Clement Stone was and what was his belief, I immediately thought of Sikhi and Chardi Kala as soon as I read it. And it stuck with me till this day. It still sticks with me. So W. Clement Stone, he basically rags to riches. He basically came from nothing. This belief system, or this was part of his belief system, and brought him to meet the president of the United States. Right. So he was an inverse paranoid. So what an inverse paranoid is that instead of believing that the world was plotting to do him harm, he chose to believe the world was plotting to do him good. So instead of seeing every difficult or challenging event as a negative, he saw it that it could mean something to enrich him, empower him, learn from it, advance his causes. And that's that's this famous belief is inverse paranoid. And as soon as I read that, I'm like, that's Chardi Kala right there. He was in high spirits the whole time. Whatever is happening to him is not actually harming him. It's empowering him to do better. And so I always love that. So even, leave people with this is not like some pie in the sky thing. This is actually could be done. You could apply that to anything you're doing in life, anything, this inverse paranoid concept. So hopefully people listening could start, changing their, shifting their mind just a little towards being positive and believing that the world events are actually making them better. And it's not really a challenge. It's something that, given to you for you to overcome.
Well said. That reminded me of 2 or 3 different poetry from Urdu that I'll leave it in the blog. So Rumi says, you were born with wings. Why prefer to crawl through life? And the 2 Urdu poetry that this reminds me of is, first one, Tundiye Bade Mukhalif Se Na Ghabra E Aqab. Ye to chalti hai tujhe uncha udane ke liye. O ego, do not be afraid of the swift and hostile winds, because they are there to make you fly even higher. And the second one is, Jab iradon mein jaan hoti hai, jab iradon mein jaan hoti hai, to ye zameen bhi aasaman hoti hai. परों से नहीं कुछ होता दोस्तों, हौसलों से उड़ान होती है. Thank you, Manpreet. Prashant, what would you like to leave our viewers with? One word or one last thing?
Well, I want to thank both you and Manpreet also, but for the concepts that you put across, such fascinating. It just kind of opens up the mind. And what I would like to leave, that I kind of try to emulate, though it's very hard. But something that I try to keep in mind when I'm going through something that is absolutely crazy or something absolutely which I think just cannot handle, I try and think what Guru Gobind Singh Ji would advise or if I would just imagine that I'm asking him and what kind of an answer I would get. That's just something within me. So, or you can go to your own, whoever you believe in, the universe for that matter, or if you're an atheist, just believe in your own self, that what does my self tell me? That is something. And the other part would be, I would then, that is one part. And the other is, I ask myself, what would Banda Bahadur do in this situation? So what would Guru Gobind Singh Ji advise, and what would Banda Bahadur do? Those two things kind of sum up my entire, thing for this. Chardi Kala and everything. That kind of is my guiding light. Though it's very hard to follow their advice and do what they do, but it kind of gives me a light to kind of at least, go towards in the tunnel, like a light. In an entirely dark tunnel, and I'm like looking for that one light, and this is my light. So.
Thank you, Prashant. That also reminds me that in transformational coaching and psychology, there's a concept of archetypes. Whether you use people that speak to you, people you look up to, or you 10 years, 20 years, 50 years from now, how would you look back, or what would they say to you? So that's a wonderful reminder that, find your archetype and reflect and see how they guide you. So, folks, thank you for joining us today. We hope this session helped you learn and will help you go further in understanding and applying Chardi Kala in your lives. We would love to hear from you. What does Chardi Kala mean to you? We have on our blog a little form that you can post in, and we look forward to further future sessions with other guests and sharing back what you wrote. May you be in Chardi Kala, and we will see you in a future podcast session. Thank you.